The purpose of this video is to review some of the highlights of our Workload article. From the outset, I should tell you that Workload was one of the most challenging and difficult issues that we faced at the negotiating table. The challenge is that we needed to come up with a document that would provide for flexibility across colleges and within departments, but at the same time allow for fairness and equitable workloads across and within colleges. So this article is our compromise position, and it very much reflects a starting point. This document will not prescribe what our workloads are, or that our workloads are going to be perfect, but it is going to allow us to have our workloads reviewed and, if necessary, to grieve what those workloads will be. Another important caveat that I'd like to mention is that the assignment of workload is the prerogative of management. The dean gets to tell us what our teaching assignments are going to be, and if that's not fair, now we'll be able to speak to that, have it reviewed, to put that through the grievance process. But we are not going to be able to entirely determine what our workloads are. That said, we proceed from the understanding that all of our workloads for 100% time, or an FTE of 1, is 8 pieces of 8. Now, these pieces of 8 are comprised of a balance of different types of units. One type of unit is teaching. A second type of unit is professional and service activities, which we are calling PSA. And a third type is substantial administrative service, or SAS. Now, each of these units should be equal to the time, effort, and energy it takes to teach 1, 3, or 4 credit course. Now, as we know, most lecturers are 88% time employees. What that means is that we are doing 7 pieces of 8. For those of us who are 75% FTE or 0.75 FTE, then we are doing 6 pieces of 8. In just a moment, I will review what activities will count toward teaching, what counts toward PSA, and what counts toward SAS. But before we get to that, I want to first review that there are some now standardized university-wide elements to the assignment of teaching units. One of these university-wide standards is outlined in W111. What is provided here is that if there are discrete sections of the same course, so different sections of the same course number that are meeting at different times during the semester, each of those sections will be counted as one teaching unit. This notion has been standard in some colleges, but not in others. So what this does now is makes this equal across all of our different colleges. Another element that is highly variable from college to college is whether or not there are laboratories or workshop components that are in conjunction with a traditional lecture as part of one course. Another important university standard that I'd like to highlight here can be found in W113. And this concerns the enrollment caps for our courses. We want to highlight here that the Discovery Committee of the Faculty Senate is the body that is engaged with setting course maxima. And we are not in any way trying to increase the maximum number of students. In fact, departments can and very well may choose to have lower caps. But what we wanted to get into the contract are the existing course maxima. What you'll note here are the maxima of 25 students for Discovery 444 courses, 20 students for Discovery 440H courses, 35 students for inquiry attribute courses, and 30 students in writing intensive courses. Now, we had to allow here for the caveat that there may be some courses that are a writing intensive designation that may in fact exceed 30 students. If that is the case, what this element here of the article provides for is that the person who's teaching that course needs to be extended some sort of assistance with this. So that could be teaching assistants, graduate assistants, instructional assistants, or some combination. At the outset of this video, I had said that this article was very much a compromise position. Here is one of these places where you can see the compromise. Maximum enrollment levels are determined by Faculty Senate. And though lecturer faculty and other types of faculty have made inroads into the Senate, we aren't guaranteed representation. So in some ways, we are in a disadvantaged position in that the Senate could change what the enrollment caps are. What we have tried to do, however, is to ensure that if there is a change to the caps, it's something that's going to be affecting all faculty, tenured and tenure-track faculty, as well as lecturers. And if we have a writing-intensive course that is exceeding 30 students, then we will be offered instructional assistance that is equal to that our tenured and tenure-track colleagues are getting. Here's also another important place where we have to bear in mind that if we are being asked to teach a course that has a greater than a 30 enrollment for a writing intensive course, we need to be able to self-advocate and go to our chairs and say that we need the instructional support to allow us to deliver the course effectively. Self-advocacy in the entirety of this contract is going to be really critical to its success. Also at the outset of this video, I had said that the assignment of workload is the prerogative of management. And that is really an issue that concerns W2 of this article. While our workload is assigned to us, the really important piece here is that workload assignments must be fair and equitable. Now, this is a grievable standard. So what that means is that if there isn't equity between lecturers within a department or across departments, then that is something that can be grieved. An important win for lecturer faculty in this article concerns W21. What this says here is that each college, with active participation of lecturer faculty, will be developing guidelines regarding lecturer faculty workloads. And this determination will happen fast. It has to happen within 90 days of the ratification of our collective bargaining agreement. These guidelines are also going to have to account for any unusual circumstances that occur in particular colleges or in particular departments. Another very important win here as a protection for our members is found in W22. What this provision says is that any of us will have the right to a college-level review of our workload at any time. A second part of this that's really important is that if we request the review and there is a dispute regarding our workload, then this will constitute the first step in the grievance process. For more details on that, you can refer to the grievance article. Moving on now to W3. This concerns our full-time equivalency status. Now, most lecturers are 88% time employees. What that means is that we are, in our current job classifications, are doing 7 pieces of 8. As new workload guidelines go into place, we can fully expect that for many of us, our FTE status will be reconsidered and perhaps be reclassified. An important question for all of us to ask is whether our current FTE status matches the work that we've been doing in our departments. Moving forward, one option is that if our workload matches our FTE, then we may have no change in our percent time. We may stay at 88% time. A second option may be that our tasks the tasks that we're currently performing don't match our FTE. And it may be the case that we're doing more than what we could be expected to do as an 88% time employee. In that case, it may be that there are tasks that our department chairs will take away from us. Another option may be that our workloads are exceeding what our current FTE status is, and in that case, we may be reconsidered for a higher FTE status. Moving forward, our FTE status determination will unfold according to the provisions in W3. To be classified as a 1 FTE lecturer, we would need to be doing 8 pieces of 8, of 6 teaching units and 2 units of professional and service activities, or 1 unit of professional and service activities and 1 unit of substantive administrative service. Now, here's a good example of where college-to-college variation becomes really quite important. In some colleges, notably the Paul College, lecturers are teaching a standard of 7 courses. Now, what's going to happen to them? For many of our Paul College lecturer colleagues, they may have an increase to a 1 FTE or 100% time determination. Or it may be that courses are taken away from them, so they'd be teaching 6 courses and have 1 unit of PSA. For 88% time lecturers, the workload will be comprised of 6 teaching units and 1 unit of PSA, and for 75% time lecturers, it will be 5 courses and 1 unit of PSA. The important thing to bear in mind is that all lecturer faculty will have 1 unit of PSA. An important consideration that the negotiating team took into account as we were drafting this article was that some of our colleagues came to us and said, well, I don't want to do service. I don't want to have to take on more than what I'm already doing. But for many of us, the service that we are already doing as part of our jobs is something that hasn't been recognized. This is what we're trying to change. We're trying to change the notion that we might be doing work for which we're unrecognized and uncompensated. So I think this is a good time for me to flip ahead and go to the determination of what counts as teaching activities, professional and service activities, and SAS. We are teaching faculty, and so many of the activities that we do to prepare for our teaching are things that are counted toward our teaching units. So activities like creating our syllabi, developing and delivering our lectures, grading, providing student support, all of these things are counted toward our teaching duties. But what about some of these other activities in which we engage, what we're now referring to as PSA? Well, some of these activities are things that some of us are doing, and some are things that we engage in from time to time. Some of these are things, though, that are much more time-consuming and things that are ongoing commitments. What we've done here is we've broken up PSA into 3 broad categories. Please bear in mind that this list is not exhaustive. We developed this list on the basis of getting feedback from many of our colleagues about some of the things that we have been engaged in on an ongoing basis. Some of these things might be relevant to your department and college, and other things may not be. There may be other things that you're doing that are not reflected here. This is where it's really important for us to ensure that we're capturing all of our activities in the FAR, the Faculty Activities Reporting, or whatever mechanism is going to come in and replace that. One PSA category that many of us engage in is direct support of our students or academic programs. Curricular development, participation in accreditation or reaccreditation processes, supervising theses or internships, writing letters of recommendation, giving placement exams. Any and all of these things are counted as PSA activities. A second important category of PSA is staying current in our fields. We're all expected to be engaging in professional development, and these could be things that are external, such as maintaining accreditations or training opportunities that you need to do for maintaining a professional qualification, or it may be things that are happening internal to UNH. Engaging in activities and workshops for the Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning, for instance, going to FITSE or the ATI, maintaining any kind of service that you do in your professional associations. All of these things are important, and these are things that the majority of us are already doing in some way. A third important category of PSA is the support that we're providing to our colleagues. Are we going to department or program meetings? Are we in attendance at alumni events or student events? Are we engaged in departmental, college, or university committees? These could be thesis committees, search committees, award committees. This could be any kind of service that we are asked to take part in. A number of us are also acting as mentors for new faculty or staff. And a good number of us have been involved in efforts for the Lecturer Council, representation of non-tenure track faculty on the Faculty Senate, executive committees for the union, the negotiating team, or eventually we will be department ombudspersons for the union. Another very important element to determining our workloads is that some of us are currently engaged in, or may in the future be asked to engage in, administrative service that goes above and beyond the activities that we are counting toward PSA. While all of us are currently engaged in and will continue to engage in professional and service activities, not all of us are engaged in this kind of substantial administrative service. So what counts toward SAS? Well, SAS is a substitution of service activities. And this includes things like coordinating laboratories or studios, if you are coordinating conferences or special events, if you are coordinating multiple course sections that are taught by multiple instructors, if you are serving as a program coordinator, if you are directing or coordinating a study abroad program. So these are things that are substantial administrative service and things that are going above and beyond the types of departmental, college or university service that many of us are engaging in. So how does this pieces of 8 workload break down? Well, let me try and draw this. If we think of our workloads as 100%, we can think of pieces of 8. So for some of us, we're going to be 7 pieces of 8. That might be six units of teaching and 1 unit of PSA. That would get us to our 88%. Other people, if they are at 1 FTE or 100%, they would have 6 units of teaching and 2 PSA. Or they could have 1 PSA and 1 SAS. Now, in all of this, we want clarity and we want transparency. These teaching units that we have here, whether they're 6 or 7, these are assigned to us by our department chairs and our deans. But the important new change that we can anticipate and that we all should be thinking about is that our PSA is going to be discussed between us as individual faculty members and our department chairs. So whether it's 1 unit of PSA, 2 units of PSA, or 1 PSA and 1 SAS, or some other combination, this is something that we're going to be working on to discuss with our department chairs. This is something that we're going to be now formally evaluated on, and this is going to be clearly outlined to us. We're looking to have clarity, transparency, fairness, and equity. And we also want all of us to know what it is that we're expected to do so that we're not going to be exploited. We're not going to be asked to take on duties that we're not going to be compensated for. And we also want to know on what basis are we going to be evaluated in terms of our job performance and the renewal of our appointments.